Contrary to popular belief, there was never a woke mind virus. That's just something that I guess MAGA conservatives came up with to make it seem like having empathy for people who are in 1% of the community a bad thing. And the truth of the matter is, woke in all honesty is just slang, if you will, as that word has been out since like the 60s, if not, earlier. And woke is basically being awake to the injustices, okay, of white supremacy, of Jim Crow laws, which did exist, That's part of our history, unfortunately. But the other aspect of that is it just means to be empathetic and to treat people with compassion, no matter who they are. If I see someone on the street who happens to be, I don't know, a MAGA, who is hurting on the floor and, a mess, I'm not going to see a MAGA. I'm going to see someone who is hurting on the floor in a mess. It's going to be the same for a trans person. It's going to be the same for any person. Okay? And even though I feel that a lot of the rhetoric from the MAGA people is very discriminatory and, likened to World War II Germany thinking, at the same time, they also believe in a woke mind virus, which doesn't exist. It's just treating each other with love, treating each other with compassion. If they saw a child on the street or a teenager who was hurting on the street, they're not going to look at them as, oh, are they a leftist or are they MAGA? Or are they... No, they're going to look at, oh shit, this person's hurting on the street. Let's go help them. That's compassion and empathy. Okay? And the fact that they called it that, it sullied a beautiful word, basically, when in reality what it meant was to have that compassion and empathy with the knowledge of one's history, of our history, knowing about the Jim Crow laws, knowing that even though people think that is an ideology, it actually is documented as part of our history. And you can Google that. You can Google what that is. And I'm talking about actual history, not Prager University. Okay? I always thought PragerU was like some kind of satire. I couldn't believe the stuff on there. I really thought it was satirical. But that's what I have to say about that aspect of things. Woke mind virus doesn't exist. Empathy and compassion exists. Knowing that we can help each other exists. And that is what it means to be woke. But I can also see how it could be insulting to those who don't like the word because of how it was sullied, by, billionaires. Really, not just Republicans, but billionaires. Okay? And nobody likes to be told that they don't have empathy or compassion. I mean, I was one of those people who spit that on them because, honestly, when they would come out and say those ugly things about 1% of a community that they don't even know, that I don't think any of them ever met a trans person. Or maybe they just didn't know when they did, But the reality is, still nobody likes to be called that. But at the same time, they don't like to be called, Nazis or, not compassionate. But the actions always speak louder, which is why I end up going with the Nazi thing, because of the fact that it's the behavior. It's hurting people. I still believe in karma. I still believe that we have energy that we exude, that we let out. And that energy does come back to us, be it good or bad. Although karma is really about what we've learned. And we take what we've learned so we can move on to the next life, right? That is the actual karma. We use it wrong. I use it wrong. And I was informed of this by a friend of mine, and he's right, But we do exude a certain energy. We all have energy. And for every horrific thing that we have done to hurt people, it does come back to us one way or another. for all of the words we may have used to hurt people. Something happens. Listen, I've been there, okay? I still get my ass kicked by the energy I exude a lot of the time. Okay, but I learn from it and try not to do that again. So, I guess what I'm trying to say, as much as people will call this bullshit, there is no woke mind virus. It's just treating each other the way you would want them to treat you. You remember that golden rule, right? Love, treat your neighbor and love thy neighbor. Treat those the way you want to be treated. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That is the hardest fucking rule in the book. I don't do the Bible. It's not my thing. I find it to be indoctrinating. But I will say that is the only rule that I try to follow, even though I'm not really good at it. I'm still learning. But I can admit to that. And I don't have shame in that. It's just I'm learning. You know, I may be 48 years old, but 48 years old doesn't mean I'm not learning. I will probably never be a Christian. I was raised in Catholicism, but I was also raised with purity culture that was very unbalanced. Like, you were told about, we were taught about, as in my parents taught us, or my mother taught us about safe sex, but we were also told that if we had sex before we were married or had sex as teenagers, we would get our asses kicked, or we would be recovering in a wheelchair because my parents would be that pissed, or we were whores. When in reality, none of those things are, we had sex, that's it. Yeah. But learning about the protection is what helped teach me how to be responsible, despite the fact that, yeah, in the past I did have an incident that happened to me where I wasn't very careful, but my body took care of that for me, which I am very lucky about because I'm not pro-life. I am pro-choice, okay? Because I believe that abortion is health care, okay? So, I guess what I'm trying to say is, as I wake up regarding what is really going on in this country, where it is the billionaires and fascists against the people, and not so much left versus right, I also keep to a lot of my values as a democratic socialist. And I call myself a democratic socialist because I can actually define the shit. When people say, oh, you're a commie, I don't think they understand how to define it. So if you guys, all of you, MAGA included, if you guys want to know what socialism, communism, what's the other one, fascism, or a dictatorship is, or are, what they are, look it up on YouTube. There is a video that it explains, it's like explained by ducks. I know that's ridiculous, it sounds like a kid thing, but let me tell you, it helped me to understand everything, and I'm like, oh, there is a, what I've been saying has been wrong all this time regarding fascism, and now I know that I'm right, and we're pretty much headed there in this country, but at least I know now. And I think the more we have knowledge of what each of these things is, the less we're going to be pointing fingers saying, hey, you're a commie, because you'll be able to define it.